Well, there was some exciting news to come out of Cape Town last week, and we seem to be having a lot of exciting news from Cape Town recently. Rob Paddock joins us now from Valenture Institute, who is going to tell us about, well, I don't know if it's a world first, Rob, but certainly I haven't heard of too many universities around the world who are going into high school teaching. But that's exactly what you're going to be doing with the University of Cape Town.
Exactly right, Alex. So this is not a world first. Universities like Stanford University have their own online high school that's been running for just over 10 years, but there's relatively few globally. And UCT is indeed the first university on the African continent to launch an online high school. It's an incredibly exciting partnership between the University of Cape Town and the Valenture Institute. And really one of the great opportunities is for an incredible institution such as UCT, being the #1 ranked university on the African continent, to extend its expertise into the secondary schooling market, which I'm sure all listeners can appreciate. Secondary schooling and tertiary sit side by side and they impact each other monumentally. And the university has decided that it's been long enough sitting on the sidelines and it's time to get their hands dirty.
100 years ago, when I had my little brief, I suppose, experience with with Maritzburg University, I took accounting, which I'd never done at school, and it was horrific to learn. It was only about 3/4 of the way into the course that I understood what they were talking about. There were various other subjects as well, maths and stats, for instance, which we coming from Newcastle High School, had no clue how they worked. Is that going to fill or change the gap? So if I'm now my younger self could sign up with UCT High School and do the transition into the university curriculum, is that what it's actually intended to do?
That's certainly one of the intentions, Alec, is to create a more effective bridge between the secondary and the tertiary schooling sector. And I think it's somewhat symptomatic of the way that our government departments are structured, but often kind of basic education believes that its job is to get students to complete a national senior certificate, and higher ed believes that it's their job to get people to a bachelor's degree or a postgrad and so on. And there's this massive chasm that exists in between. So there's two ways in which the University of Cape Town are thinking about this together with us at Valenture Institute. The one is that students will be writing the government national senior certificate examination, but we need to make sure that learners are very well prepared to succeed academically in the national senior certificate. And one of the mechanisms that we're employing in this model, Alex, is called mastery-based learning. So learners actually can't progress to the next portion of their module if they haven't mastered the content that they're busy working with, so that we can constantly build on solid foundations. One of the problems with the traditional brick and mortar school education is that teachers always have to teach to the middle effectively. If learner has mastered a concept, or if they haven't yet, if the schedule says it's time to move on, everyone moves on. And the unfortunate reality in South African classrooms is that learners, on average, their grade level understanding spans about 5 grade levels in the average classroom, which is a terrifying prospect, especially for subjects like mathematics, science, STEM-related fields. If you lose those fundamental concepts and you keep getting pushed through, it's only a question of when you're going to fall out the system as opposed to if. So that's the one.
Rob? Explain that. 5 grades? Are you saying that
5 grade levels? So you can be sitting in grade 9 mathematics, and you can actually have a grade 3 mathematics level understanding, but you're still sitting in that grade 9 level class. Why? Because you've been pushed through every single year. Because if learners stay back, it creates these massive clogs in the system. So there's this disincentive, or there's this perverse incentive, let's call it, to keep pushing learners on, regardless of whether they've actually mastered the concepts of the respective subjects or not. And that is particularly problematic when you get to, as an example, your final national senior certificate exams, or even if you get through those and you manage to get into university. Now in first year university, we've got one of the biggest issues in our country is we've got massive dropout rates of previously disadvantaged learners in first year varsity, because they're just not academically prepared, and they're certainly not prepared to succeed in this more independent modality of education being tertiary. So there are these huge systemic problems that if we don't take a step back and think radically differently about the whole system, we're just not going to solve, Alec. So I think this.
Let me understand this. Now, if I am a heavily unionized teacher and I have no incentive to get my students at the level that they need to be, because I'm going to pass them anyway, then the system has got a fatal flaw in it, because if I'm not going to lose my job because I'm not going to, because I'm unionized, and on the other hand, I have no incentive to, because I'm passing it to do my job because I'm passing everybody anyway, then there's a deep fundamental error in what's happening in South African education. And maybe you've put your finger on it there.
This is a systemic issue for sure, Alec, and it's multifaceted, as these complex issues tend to be. One other related point is that, as an example, in the Eastern Cape, 60% of teachers teaching grade 8 mathematics cannot pass the same test for which they are teaching. Now, that's a terrifying prospect. So now we've got this double whammy where not only are the teachers not sufficiently skilled in order to teach the subjects, but actually they have no positive incentive to keep progressing, to make sure that students have actually mastered the concepts to achieve a reasonable grade level so that they can progress to the next. That's terrifying when you think about how that extrapolates and amplifies over time, and the issues that it creates for us in the economy more broadly. So this idea of mastery-based or competency-based learning is not a new phenomenon, certainly not at all, but it's not been properly integrated into a school system, partly because the practical realities of a physical classroom make it very difficult to provide a personalized, individuated learning approach to every learner. And as you can imagine, let's say that you're already a strained teacher with 40 kids in your class, the idea that you could actually pinpoint exactly that Sipho is struggling with quadratic equations, but another learner is struggling with something different, and let me go give some personalized attention to each one of those. It's just not feasible, not only to do the diagnostics, but actually then to do the personalized teaching, even if you have the skills. Digital technologies fundamentally and transformationally creates new opportunities to think differently about how we diagnose the gaps in students' learning and how we then provide individual remediation. Alec, it's a whole new world that I think that one of the positives that's come from COVID-19 is that regulators and leaders of education institutions' minds have been open to the fact that digital can play a really meaningful role. It needs to be thoughtfully integrated. It needs to be contextually suitable. But jeepers creepers, there is huge opportunity for us to think differently. And quite frankly, we can't keep doing what we're doing. I think our results are a testament to that. Like, we have to start thinking differently.
We're failing the children at the moment. How can you give a child a teacher who doesn't actually know the subject it's trying to teach? And theoretically, if there were fewer children in the class, they would be able to help Sipho or Peter or John or whoever it is. But they don't understand it themselves. As you've said, 60% of them wouldn't pass that exam anyway. It's insanity. But okay, that's where we are. We're fooling ourselves. We keep fooling ourselves. We keep throwing money at the problem, but in the wrong direction. You've now spoken to UCT. You've got an agreement with UCT. How does it all work?
So the UCT Online High School is a collaborative partnership between the University of Cape Town and Valenture Institute. We have a shared governance structure. So members of the University of Cape Town leadership team sit together with Valenture Institute leadership team on what's called an oversight committee. Then there is a delegated authority to an operations and governance committee, which includes representation, as an example, from UCT's registrar, the dean of the Centre for Higher Education Development, the UCT principal is a really key member there, and two members from Valenture Institute. So this is truly shared governance structure. There's then further delegated authority down to then the University of Cape Town Online High School principal, which we're excited will probably be in a position to announce that individual in about 2 weeks' time. And then there's further authority delegated down to the UCT Online High School leadership team. So it's very much a kind of classic case of teamwork makes the dream work, and we're trying to infuse the best of what the University of Cape Town can bring: deep academic expertise, a strong understanding of the challenges in the bridge between schooling and university and so on, and the best of what Valenture can bring, which is our proprietary learning management system and student support model.
Aren't you going a bit back to your roots from Get Smarter, the company that you and your brother established and sold off to you in America, in that you're now starting to play with universities again?
In some ways, I guess the answer would be yes. I think one of the things that I'm most thoughtful about at the moment is that so the role of education is not only to make sure that we've got learners who are academically prepared, and that, to our discussion now, that's really, really important. But I believe that it's about more than that. It's about creating whole humans who can dream big, who are willing to take leaps, who are willing to take risks, and who have got role models and are associated with organizations that make them want to aspire to more. And one of the things that I've seen again and again in the Get Smarter experience is that when you allow people to associate with top institutions, it changes the way we think about ourselves and our potential. And that, if there's a gift that we need to give to South Africa right now, it's that we can have a learner in rural Mpumalanga who is formally associated with the University of Cape Town, as part of the University of Cape Town family, has got exposure to Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng in the Fireside Chat series, has got exposure to the incredible academics that exist at UCT, and can see themselves and a new path to what their future could hold. Because now I'm associated with UCT and JEEPers, I've got role models in my life, and I've got exposure to individuals that make me feel like I want to aspire to so much more. So Alec, in many ways, I think this is a the role of education again is not only to develop the academic expertise, but to shift the mindset and the possibility of what learners can dream of. And I believe that with a university like UCT, JEEPers, we couldn't give our learners something bigger to aspire towards, and I think that's a great gift.
I saw the cost looked very reasonable.
It's 2,095 Rand per month. In addition to that, we're actually giving away the entire curriculum entirely for free. So the entire online platform will be available with every subject that's ever developed for the UCT Online High School. Any learner, any teacher around the country and indeed the continent can make use of that entirely for free. And we're very grateful to our partners at Mike and Susan Dell Foundation for assisting us with that work.
Is that Dell Computers, that foundation?
Indeed. It is a private family foundation, but of Michael and Susan Dell here.
So how big a subsidy is that?
So that's a subsidy to assist us to develop the materials and to make sure the online platform is available and freely available for the future. I probably wouldn't be able to disclose the amount publicly, but they've been incredibly generous with the support of the project.
So it's about $2,000 a month to get to get access, and you can do everything then through UCT High School. You would presumably need the computer, you'd need connectivity and so on, which is also another investment. Would there be a way of collaborating or going into if you needed to speak to a tutor like you do with the Valenture Institute with your other...
Exactly right, Alec. So the difference between the free and the 2,000 Rand a month is that if you're paying 2,000 Rand a month, you're formally joining the UCT Online High School community. You have extensive support from the country's best teachers, best mentors, technical support officers, career guidance services, a whole range of virtual and social clubs. You're participating in our UCT Fireside Chat series. There's a rich and engaging social environment for you with your peers. So this is a full high school replacement in the digital domain.
But and you said the free? What do you get?
I'm sorry. So the free is access to all of the content, the interactive content that's being created, the online learning system, so that any teacher and any learner can make use of that. Probably the best way to describe it is that UCT Online High School is basically the free plus human support and community.
All right. So if I'm sitting in the Eastern Cape, I'm in grade 6. I've got a teacher who couldn't pass grade 6 mathematics. All is not lost because I can tap into the UCT High School for free and at least watch some of those lectures or absorb some of the information, which might enable me to pass with with actual proficiency at the end of the year.
Indeed, access to high quality learning resources is at least freely available. Learning resources fairly scantily available in South Africa right now. We want to change that entirely. Unfortunately, if you go to central listings of e-learning resources, it's a complete mismatch of a kind of worksheet over here and a YouTube video over there. What we've got here is a purpose-built online school platform that has got the full range of CAP subjects that are available and that have been developed by expert learning designers, expert teachers, rich and engaging interactive simulations. I think this is one of the things that frustrates me personally, is that we're dealing with a generation that's grown up with interactive media, and then when we take them into digital learning, it's like these static PDF documents that they look at. It's like, well, of course it's not engaging. Like, we need simulations, we need interactivity. This is a generation that is yearning for it and has gotten used to that as a standard. So that's certainly one of the things that the free UCT curriculum hopes to achieve.
When does it launch?
It is formally launched for applications last week, Wednesday, and the academic year starts in January of 2022.